These are the most popular and valuable variety coins that you can cherry pick from US mint proof sets. Starting with the first of the modern era proof sets in 1968. Let's begin with the Lincoln penny, and there is really only one variety of any note here, the 1968S double die obverse proof coin, a rather underrated variety, truth be told. There is some doubling towards the north of the letters of "In God We Trust." In other words, towards the rim of the coin, the letters of liberty are also doubled towards the northeast, with the first three letters displaying quite distinct notching in the upper left corners, and then the date is also doubled quite nicely as well, particularly the 6 and 8. Another interesting point of note is a rim scratch that is seen just below the mint mark as well. In 2015, a proof 68 red graded coin from PCGS was sold at auction for the sum of $517. Moving on to the nickel from there, and we have our first repunched mint mark coin to examine. On this, the repunching is quite strong actually, and you should be able to spot the initial S mint mark fairly easy towards the right. The top serif in particular is quite strong, and almost appears doubled as you can see here. In 2014, a coin like this was sold graded by PCGS as proof 67 for $1,705. Half dollars are next in line, and the first coin to look at for this particular set is the double die obverse example. And for a proof coin, there's some very nice doubling to be seen here. The best place to spot this doubling on this coin would be on the letters of "In God We Trust," particularly on the "In God" section, where the doubling can be seen more towards the right of the letters, but the R of trust is also doubled and can easily be spotted due to the long straight leg of the R. Every number on the date is also doubled in much the same way as well, with the 8 being the easiest to notice from a distance. In 2017, a PCGS proof 68 cameo graded coin was sold at auction for $645. Then we have another Kennedy half dollar, but this time it is a double die reverse coin instead. Point in fact, it is actually a very minor triple die reverse coin. Slight doubling can be seen on most of the letters on the reverse. On the letters of half dollar, this displays mostly towards the left, such as here on the A and the R of dollar. And on the letters of America, the doubling is spotted on the right of the letters, with even some notching in places as well, such as on the M, the E, and the R. If you closely examine the stars beneath America, you should be able to spot some tripling on these, but this is admittedly a bit difficult to spot without the proper equipment. 2015 saw the sale of a PCGS graded proof 67 cameo example of this variety coin for $2,820. And then the last half dollar coin to keep an eye out for is a bit of a tricky one if you don't know exactly what to look for. But that also means that if someone else has searched the set before you, they could have easily missed it, leaving it for you to cherry pick. This would be the 1968 S, or rather inverted S, half dollar. On this coin, the S mint mark was punched onto the die in an inverted position, or stated more plainly, upside down. The easiest way to spot this inverted mint mark is to examine the serifs of the S. The bottom serif should be more rounded, but on the inverted S coin, the straight-tipped serif is on the bottom, and the larger rounded serif would be on the top. If you think you have this coin, then there is also a diagnostic point of interest to look for on the reverse in the form of a small die bump or die gouge between the R and the I of America. During the 2016 January Fund Show, a coin like this was sold at auction in a PCGS slab with a grade of proof 66 for $705. The next denomination in line would then be the quarter dollars, and right off the bat we have a double die obverse variety. Not exactly the most impressive doubling, to be honest, but it is clear nonetheless. Class 1 doubling that is best spotted on the letters of "In God We Trust", especially on the ones closer towards the rim of the coin, such as the word "in" and the T and R of trust. The date is also doubled, and you can spot this towards the bottom half of the numbers, as well as towards the right, where it should be displayed the clearest. In 2018, a PCGS graded Proof 67 coin like this was sold at auction for $288. Alright, so then from a double die obverse to a double die reverse coin now. This is actually a very nice example of classic rotated hub doubling, and although the spread is not exceedingly wide, it is very strong. All of the letters around the rim of the coin are nicely doubled and shouldn't have too much trouble spotting it either. The same goes for the letters of E pluribus unum, although to a somewhat lesser degree. Other points of interest also include the leaves, as well as the tips of the eagle's wings, which should both be doubled towards the south. In 2018, a coin sold at the February Long Beach Expo and a PCGS graded slab of Proof 68 was sold for $432. And then, the last quarter you can look for in a 1968 proof set is a repunched mint mark variety. Now fortunately this is a very strong repunched mint mark variety, and the initial S will be very easy to spot directly north of the final placement. However, there is a catch, as the die state affects how prominently the first striking will display, and in fact in later die states it all but disappears, along with the corresponding value of the coin as well, unfortunately. In 2018, there was an example of this coin sold at auction in a PCGS Proof 68 Cameo slab for $1,320. So all that's left to do then is delve into the dimes, and there are quite a few of these to look for in these sets, so let's get straight to it. There are two double die obverse coins that are worth pursuing. The first is the result of pivoted hub doubling and is characterized by the rather strong doubling that you can see on the letters of Liberty, which are all doubled nicely towards their right. The characters of "In God We Trust" are also doubled mostly towards the north on this variety. This is an extremely rare variety coin and is sure to be worth several $100s at a minimum if you are lucky enough to find one. The second double die obverse variety is far less dramatic than the first one, and is instead rather identified by the quite strong doubling that you can find on the designer's initials of JS just below Roosevelt's neck. The date is also doubled somewhat, with separation lines on most of the numbers and a small split in the tail of the 9 as well. In 2018, a coin like this was sold in a NGC slab with a grade of Proof 68 for $280. Turning our attention from there to the reverse of the coin now, we find another two double die reverse varieties to discuss as well. On the first coin, there is rather strong doubling on the words United States, with the doubling displaying towards the left of the letters in this particular case. On the letters of E pluribus, there is also quite distinct doubling, with most displaying towards the southeast. The dot separating United from the 1 of 1 dime is nearly oval in shape instead of being round. There is also some doubling on the sprigs, and both the stem ends are split towards the ends. In 2017, a coin like this was sold at auction in a PCGS Proof 67 slab for $210. And then the second double die reverse example, which is significantly less pronounced than the prior coin. The doubling here is seen on all of the letters of United States of America, but it is lightly doubled, and because the rotation on this particular variety took place in a counterclockwise direction, the doubling displays towards the right of the letters instead. The tips of the flames are also split on their ends in this particular variety coin, a very rare coin with no real auction record to speak of, so in terms of value, it would be worth probably around $200 to $350 in a decent grade. The next coin is a repunched mint mark variety found on the dime in the 1968 proof set. For this variety, the final placement of the S mint mark was directly towards the east of the initial punching. As a result, the S is doubled towards the west on the top curl. The effect of the top serif is also quite unique as well. In 2014, a coin like this in a PCGS slab with a grade of proof 66 was sold at auction for $423. The last coin that you should definitely be looking for in those 1968 proof sets is also the easiest to spot, and by far the most valuable of the lot as well. That is simply the 1968 No S proof dime. As with the rest of the coins in the set, it should have an S mint mark as they were struck and distributed from the San Francisco Mint. However, it seems that a single obverse die was accidentally shipped to San Francisco from Philadelphia without the S mint mark on it. It was then prepared and pressed into service without anyone noticing the mistake. Keep in mind that this is only valid for the proof coin from the set, as a regular circulation coin with no mint mark would not be valuable in this case. And in terms of value, 2018 saw the auction of a proof 68 cameo graded coin for the amount of $39,950. The 1969 proof set, and not exactly a set that is renowned for spectacular varieties, to be completely honest, but there are a couple, or maybe 3 or so coins that do warrant a mention. So let's start off by taking a look at the double die obverse variety for the Washington Quarter. This is a very rare variety coin that is nearly impossible to get a hold of, the result of rotated hub doubling with a counterclockwise rotation, best observed on the letters of Liberty, where you can see the doubling towards the right on all of the letters without exception. The date is also doubled to the same degree, but here the doubling displays towards the left of the numbers instead. 2018 saw the rare auction of just such a coin in a PCGS slab with the grade of proof 67 for $312. Sticking with the quarters for now, another variety that you may want to also keep an eye out for in the 1969 proof set would be the repunched mint mark 1969 S over S proof Washington Quarter. A repunched mint mark, nothing too crazy about this particular coin. The final positioning is due south of the initial punching, and as such, the clear signs of the first S mint mark will appear towards the top. This is true for the top, bottom, and center portions of the letter. During 2019, one of these variety coins in a PCGS slab and the grade of proof 68 was sold for $195. I should mention that there is another repunched mint mark variety that is also noted, although neither PCGS nor NGC actually recognize these as distinct varieties to themselves, but are likely to slab either under the same designation, the working theory being that it is in fact the same coin under a different die state. That particular bone of contention is still up for debate, but this is without a doubt though a triple punched mint mark. The second and final striking took place not unlike the previous coin, although perhaps with a slightly larger spread. But there is also a clear third S, which was the initial S underneath those two, which was punched slightly askew, with the lower rounding peeking out towards the eastern side and the top curl also being slightly tipsy towards the northwest. And then, The final coin that you can search for in the 1969 proof set is again a repunched mint mark, but this time the variety appears on the Jefferson nickel instead. This is a rather nice variety that can be identified quite easily by looking at the bottom half of the S. The lower curl of the S in particular appears as though it is doubled to the east across the entire rounding of the S. Then there is also the lower serif of this variety, which almost looks like an upside-down acorn of sorts. 2017 marks the sale of one of these coins created by PCGS as Proof 67 for $499. And that, in a nutshell, are the valuable variety coins for the 1969 proof set. Proof coin varieties that you can look for in the 1970 proof set. Starting at the center of the set with the $half coin, and here we have two $half varieties to look for already. Both are double die obverse varieties, but the first one can easily be distinguished by the words "we trust." That is best exemplified by what is seemingly tripling on the ST portion of trust. The date also displays quite nicely on the 7 as well as the 0 in a generally southeasterly direction, which is in line with the clockwise rotation that caused the doubling on this particular coin. A copy of this coin, graded as Proof 67 by PCGS, was sold at auction in 2013 for $211.50. The doubling on the next $half coin is not nearly as dramatic, but can still be seen the clearest on the S as well as the T of trust, just as you had in the previous coin, which makes searching for both varieties easy since the main point of interest is similar, but this time in a much more specifically defined manner towards the south of the letters. There is also some distinctive doubling on the tips of Kennedy's hair on this coin that you can look for as well. This is best expressed on the hair tips just beside the letters of B in Liberty. Now, of the two varieties, this is the one that you are more likely to come across, and as an example, in 2017, one of these coins was sold at auction slabbed by NGC as Proof 69 Cameo for $517. Well, there are no notable varieties to speak of for the quarter in the set, so from there we move right along towards the dime. And here again there are a few extremely minor varieties that have not managed to really capture the market's attention, and as such not attained any significant market value either. But there is one coin that should absolutely be mentioned here, and that is the 1970 no S dime. In this case, the traditional S mint mark for the San Francisco Mint that should appear on all proof coins for this set was accidentally omitted from this coin. If you've been following this series, then you'll also know that the same thing happened in 1968, and we'll be seeing it again a few times throughout the series. In 2017, a coin like this was sold at auction, graded by NGC as Proof 69 Cameo for $1,320. Again, not too much of note for the nickel, but fear not, as the Lincoln penny has rather a lot going on, with a number of notable varieties to search for. First up is a rather obvious one, that the 1970 production run was yet another transitional year for the US Mint, where you can now find both large as well as small date design varieties for the same year. For the proof coin, the best way to check if you have either the small or the large date types is by examining the 9 of the date. On the small date variety, the tip of the inner curl will be more pointed and directed inwards towards the 7, whereas by comparison, The large date has what is known as a revised or chiseled 9, where the inner curl is blunt and pointed downwards to between the 7 and the mint mark. Another way to tell the difference between these two varieties is by checking the relative position of the 7. As with the small date, all of the numbers will align towards their tops, but with the larger date, the 7 is positioned slightly towards the south. Notice the gap, and then check to see if there's a revised 9 with the chiseled tip, and then what you have is a large date cent. Now, here the large date is by far the more common of the two coins, with the prices being largely in line with what a normal coin for the series would be. However, the small date coin is definitely worth more, and in 2019, an NGC graded Proof 69 star red coin was sold at auction for $528. However, even if you do have a large date coin, there are still a few good varieties to look for from there. The main one of those would be the double die obverse variety that is in reality actually a large date over small date coin, created when a small date hub was first impressed onto a die, and then a second squeezing took place with a large dated hub over that. You can clearly see notching towards the bottom of the 1 in the date. The tail of the 9 is also far larger and almost square when compared to a normal taper tip of a regular coin. The 7 has a similar appearance to the 1 as well, in that its base is also stepped, and then the 0 appears almost lopsided towards the southeast. Similar characteristics can also be identified on most of the lettering on the obverse as well, with additional thickness towards the letters being the norm for this particular coin, similar to that which you might see on a distended hub doubled coin, whereas in this case it is clearly a Class 2 design hub doubled coin. In 2018, a PCGS graded Proof 67 red cameo coin like this was sold at auction for $432. The second large date coin to keep an eye out for is no less than a tripled die obverse variety, with the Class 1 rotation taking place in a counterclockwise rotation no less than 2 times, leaving, to be honest, minor but very attractive tripling on most all of the obverse letters as well as the date. The effect, however, is strongest on the letters of In God We Trust, seen towards the right of those particular letters. In 2016, a coin graded by PCGS as Proof 67 red deep cameo was sold at auction for $587.50. Our next coin is by far the most difficult to locate on this list, not only in terms of overall scarcity, but also, and if we're being completely honest, that it is not the most obvious of varieties to begin with. The doubling is there's no doubt about that, although you will need good magnification in order to spot it and even perhaps a trained eye. But the best place to look for this again would be on the letters of In God We Trust, where the W of We displays very distinct notching towards the tips of the letters. Separation lines can meanwhile be detected on most all of the rest of the letters, but it is on the letters of trust that it does seem to especially be the clearest. This is also the case with the date, where the 0 of 1970 is again the clearest indicator on that particular portion of the design. Due to the overall rarity of the coin, it is seldomly seen on the market, but in 2016, a PCGS graded Proof 67 red cameo example was sold at auction for $211.50. Right now, we'll be looking at which variety coins you can pick up from the 1971 US Mint proof set that are worth good money. Starting off at the Lincoln penny, there are actually a few varieties that you might be able to find. The first penny is one where you could detect significant doubling on the letters of Liberty, with all of the letters doubled very strongly towards the rim of the coin. This is actually a very rare variety coin, and if you are lucky enough to get an example with a cameo or even a deep cameo field, then it can fetch very handsome premiums. Further doubling is then also present on the letters of "In God We Trust," with the "In God We" portion being the strongest in this respect. The effect of the doubling is rather unmistakable, distinguishing it nicely from the next two examples we'll be discussing in just a minute. It also shows signs of both distorted and pivoted hub doubling, making it an interesting compound example, but that falls well outside the scope of this presentation, so let's just leave that for now. In terms of value, it is also interesting to note that an additional cameo designation can affect the market perception of the coin rather dramatically. For instance, in 2023, a Proof 67 graded coin from PCGS was sold at auction for $456, which is a little below average, to be fair, but still not bad. In contrast, in 2019, a Proof 68 cameo coin, also from PCGS, was sold at auction for $4,583, practically 10 times as much. Then we have what most people will consider the headline or main double die obverse variety for the 1970 S Proof penny. This time we have more classic distorted hub doubling, where most of the doubling on the obverse is seen towards the rim of the coin. With that in mind, all the letters of Liberty are doubled quite boldly towards the west. The I is almost completely doubled without achieving complete separation though. The letters of In God We Trust are also doubled towards the rim of the coin, and here the doubling is not nearly as dramatic as it was in the previous example. The easiest way to identify this variety though is by examining the date. Here the numbers are doubled seemingly towards the southwest. It is definitely the variety in which the date is doubled the strongest for this issue. In 2022, a Proof 69 Ultra Cameo NGC graded example was sold at auction for a closing price of $3,600. The last penny variety you can look for is also the least dramatic of the three listed here. And to be clear, there are actually 3 or 4 other similar varieties that exist as well, but those do not nearly have anywhere near the same level of market recognition, and as a result aren't quite as valuable. But the best doubling appears on the letters of In God We Trust. But this is not the same dramatic doubling that we've seen before. It takes the form mainly of additional thickness on the letters and mostly well-defined separation lines between the center of the individual letters. During early 2023, a PCGS graded Proof 67 cameo example of the coin was sold at auction for $408. From there, let's move on to the Kennedy half-dollar coin in the set. And again, here is an issue for which multiple variety coins are known. First up is a double die obverse example where there should be clear notching towards the top of the first number 1 in the date. This should be paired with clear separation lines that are seen in the flag of the number 7, and this effect should also again be repeated on the top flag of the last number 1 in 1971. The letters of In God We Trust should also be doubled very clearly, with the letters closest to the rim of the coin doubled more dramatically than those closer to the center of the coin, due to the effects of the rotated hub doubling that we see on this coin. And then finally, some additional doubling on the letters of Liberty should then also be detected. The base of the letter B is a good example of this. In 2020, a PCGS graded Proof 67 example of this variety was sold at auction for $99, making it the least valuable variety on the list, but that's still at least probably 10 times the average price of the Proof set itself. Another variety coin that can be found on the 1971 S 50-cent coin is an example of pivoted hub doubling. It is very slight though, and displays merely as separation lines on the letters of "We Trust," with the tail of the R, the U, and the S being the clearest indications of the doubling on this coin, along with similar indications on the serifs of the letter T of trust. It is a lot more subtle when compared to the previous example especially. In addition to this, the last number 1 should be doubled much in the same manner. This coin is a bit of a mixed bag, as it seldomly appears on the market and prices can vary wildly when it does. In 2013, a coin graded as Proof 68 Cameo by PCGS was sold at auction for $705. The last double die obverse variety for the Kennedy half-dollar coin to be found in this set that is worth a mention for the purposes of this presentation is seen here now. For the doubling on this coin, look towards the letters of "We Trust." You should see notching on the serifs of the S and both of the letters T, along with the flag of the serifs of the last number 1 of the date, which should display similar doubling, and round that off by looking at the serifs of the Y in Liberty, which should have clear notching, both towards the top and the bottom of the letter. This one is not as well known and a little harder to find, but again, that could also lead to higher premiums as a result. But in 2021, this coin was sold at auction online, slabbed by PCGS as Proof 67 for $1,307. Now, I'd like to mention just one more half-dollar variety before moving on. This is a double die reverse variety, not the strongest doubling, and no, not even a very popular coin either, but it does give you another opportunity to cherry-pick something more valuable from your 71 proof set. So, look towards the bottom of the letters of half dollar, especially the DOL part of dollar. You should see signs of doubling on the inside of those letters, oriented towards the north. In 2016, we saw an example of a Proof 67 coin graded by PCGS that sold at auction for an impressive $2,585. Then, after that, we can move along to the Jefferson nickel and the varieties you can find there. First up is a double die reverse coin. This is without a doubt the most subtle variety on this list, as most of the doubling is displayed merely in the form of additional thickness towards the letters. On the letters S of pluribus, though, you should see clearer signs of doubling, and the letters of Monticello and cents are definitely thicker than they really should be, with the letters of cents at least showing split ends or notching on the various serifs of those letters. Some doubling is then also detectable on the right side of the letters of America. In 2022, a coin like this was sold online, graded by PCGS as Proof 66 for the sum of $137. And then, the final entry on this list is without any doubt the most famous coin. This is the 1971 No S Proof nickel, a coin that quite simply lacks the customary S mint mark that should be on a proof coin like this from 1971. Look in the space between the date and Jefferson's hair tie. If there is an S mint mark, then it is just a regular proof coin. But if there is no S mint mark, then it is a rare variety. Now again, this has to be the proof coin from the proof set and not just any regular business strike coins. In 2023, a 1971 proof No S Jefferson nickel was sold at public auction, housed in a PCGS slab with the grade of Proof 69 Deep Cameo. It was sold for the final closing price of $8,100. So those are all of the variety coins worth looking for in your 1971 US Mint proof set, at least all the ones that would be fairly easy to sell for a decent premium. By now, you likely already know about the 1975 no S proof dime, but don't worry, that's not what we'll be looking at right now. Instead, this is another 1975 proof dime variety that you could be looking for instead. This one definitely does have an S mint mark. In fact, it is noteworthy because it actually has two of them. That's right, we are dealing with a repunched mint mark variety. To best identify this variety coin, look at the top serif, where the repunching is the most obvious. From there, you should then also be able to notice evidence of the initial striking almost throughout the entire letter. An interesting anomaly is that due to the positioning of this second impression relative to the initial, there appears to be a diagonal line connecting the bottom serif to the center of the coin. Looking at the auction records, we find a PCGS graded coin from a 2016 Long Beach auction at a grade of Proof 69 Deep Cameo at sold for $881. Then we have a proof dime from 1983, but not just any regular dime from 1983 proof set either. This is the rare 1983 no S dime, where the customary S mint mark from the San Francisco Mint was omitted from the coin by mistake. It is not a mint error in the strictest sense, but rather a variety coin that the US Mint never intended to make, as all of the 1983 proof coins, especially the dime like this, is supposed to have an S mint mark on them. This example was graded by PCGS with the superlative grade of Proof 70 Deep Cameo, literally the perfect example of the type that saw a closing price at auction in 2014 for $10,560. Next in line is another proof-only variety and the first coin to look for in the 1990 proof set. This time though, this is the 1990 S proof Jefferson nickel, and we have a very attractive double-to-die obverse coin. This coin is difficult to obtain and can fetch a very decent premium when sold. Look for the signs of the pivoted hub doubling on the letters of In God We Trust. Here it should display as medium but very clear doubling towards the left of all of the letters. Since the pivot point is towards the right of the coin, near the 3 o'clock position, the rest of the design remains largely unaffected by the doubling in this case. For this coin, we look towards an example sold at auction in 2022, graded as PCGS Proof 69 Deep Cameo for $528. Sticking with the 1990 proof set for the time being, and I swear not all of the coins on this list are proof coins, it just so happens to be that the first few happen to fall into that category. This is the 1990 S Proof Washington Quarter that displays Class 5 obverse hub doubling. Attractive spread can be noticed towards the left of all of the numbers and the date, as well as some very good doubling on the mint mark of the coin, as well as some less obvious but still very good doubling on the very tip of Washington's hair tie ribbon. There have been surprisingly few of these varieties discovered or reported to date, so get busy checking those 1990 proof sets if you have them. Here we have a coin graded as Proof 68 Deep Cameo by PCGS that was sold in 2020 for $360. Although we can also point to a Proof 70 Deep Cameo example that was sold in 2010 for $7,050, but I'm sure you can understand that that is somewhat of an outlier case. And then, from the end of the decade right back to the very beginning, and the last coin to search for from the 1990 proof set is seen here now. This is the very well-known 1990 No S proof penny. Since the 1990 proof sets were exclusively minted at the San Francisco Mint, there should be an S mint mark on all proof coins from this set, and yet, on a very small amount of pennies that managed to escape the mint, this design detail was omitted. The coin is extremely popular and, as such, very easy to sell if you should find one. And in 2022, a PCGS graded Proof 69 red deep cameo example was sold at auction for the sum of $6,300. And then it's a Kennedy $half coin where we can find a double die obverse example of the 1992 S silver proof coin, the first year in which the mint started to resume minting 90% silver coins for sale specifically to the numismatic market. On this coin, doubling is best spotted on the serifs of the letters of In God We Trust. Separation lines should be clearly noted on the bottom of most letters. The T and the R of trust are typically the most reliable place to look first. This variety remains rare, with relatively few examples appearing very intermittently, such as a Proof 69 deep cameo example sold at auction in 2016 for $2,585. This coin is one that is often and easily overlooked, and it's easy to understand why as well, as the Class 2 doubling on this coin is one of the hardest types of hub doubling to correctly identify, and in this case, the doubling is unusually close as well. Furthermore, this 1995 S Washington Quarter is found exclusively in 1995 proof sets, and is highly unlikely to pop up in pocket change as well. Look towards the bottom rounding of the number 9 of the date to spot the extremely faint doubling. The S mint mark is also affected by the distorted hub doubling, as by this point the US Mint had begun placing mint marks on the coining hubs instead of the individual working dies themselves. During 2022, a PCGS example of this variety coin in a grade of MS68 was sold at auction for $192. And so, we encounter the first proof variety to be included here in the form of the 1998 Close AM Lincoln Penny, which is technically reverse design variety number 7. The proof coins for 1998 and 1999 were meant to have reverse design variety number 6, or the wide AM design, but somewhere along the line, a few of the reverse dies were mixed up and close AM dies were processed as proof dies at the San Francisco Mint, leading to this neat little variety hiding itself away in some 1999 and 1998 US Mint proof sets. In this case, the A and the M of America should practically be touching each other at their base, as well as the G of the FG initials having a straight vertical bar with no serif and a wider gap between the F and the foundation of the memorial building. During a 2016 auction, a coin in an NGC slab with a perfect grade of Proof 70 red Ultra Cameo was sold for $2,233. Now, back in 1975, the San Francisco Mint struck a total of 2,845,450 proof dimes for inclusion in proof sets, each expected to carry this S mint mark. However, one California collector who had ordered 5 proof sets directly from the mint made a surprising discovery. In 2 of these sets that they received, the dimes were missing the S mint mark entirely. By 1978, both coins had been certified by the American Numismatic Association's certification service, and the first reports of this mysterious coin appeared in Coin World magazine. The following year, in 1979, 1979, the sets containing these dimes were then sold to Illinois-based dealer Fred Vollmer. He then sold them separately to two collectors. The first was sold to a collector in Ohio for $18,200. This coin is today known as the Roof E specimen and is graded by PCGS as Proof 67. The second set then saw a significant increase in value, selling in 1980 for $38,550. This coin, now encapsulated by PCGS, received the higher grade of Proof 68, making it the finer of the two examples that are known. Now, you might wonder, how could this error even happen? Why do these proof dimes lack a mint mark, and why haven't more of these coins shown up? Well, the answer lies in an interesting detail. In 1975, the San Francisco Mint was actually assisting the Philadelphia Mint by producing no mint mark dimes for regular circulation as well. Due to the sheer volume of coins needed for that year, the San Francisco Mint struck just shy of 72 million dimes without mint marks, blending in with the regular Philadelphia Mint's 513 million no mint mark dimes for circulation. This sort of collaboration between mints was fairly common during that particular time, with the San Francisco Mint and even the West Point Mint occasionally supplementing the Philadelphia Mint's production shortfalls. It seems likely then that, at some point, a no mint mark die was mistakenly processed as a proof die at San Francisco, which then produced a few proof dimes with the S mint mark missing completely. Only two such sets containing the error coins have been discovered and verified, suggesting that quality control at the mint likely caught the mistake and destroyed most of the defective coins before they had a chance to leave the mint at all. But who's to say that there aren't any more hiding in plain sight? If you've got a 1975 proof set at home, it might be worth your effort to take a closer look. You never know, you could be sitting on a $500,000 coin without even realizing it. For years, these coins faded from both view and memory, and were almost considered urban legends at one point. Some began to doubt whether they even existed at all, and understandably so. I mean, they've been hiding in private collections for over 30 years at one particular point. In fact, in the first edition of the 100 Greatest US Modern Coins, it didn't even make the main list. Instead, it was relegated to a brief mention. And I quote, "If it does exist, the 1975 No S dime is one of the greatest rarities of the 20th century, and will assume a vaunted position on the list of 100 greatest US modern coins, likely the number one spot. But until it's confirmed, it remains off the list." And very similarly, numismatist David Lang, in his book on US proof sets, also remarked, "Rumors have persisted for years that a 1975 proof dime without a mint mark exists, and there may indeed be one or two such coins. If genuine, this coin is certainly a key rarity in the modern proof series." Then, in 2011, all doubt was finally erased. PCGS certified the first of these two coins, and Stack's Bowers Galleries brought it to auction for the very first time in their August A&A auction for that year. The coin, graded as PCGS Proof 68, was sold to the Paulus family collection for an astonishing $349,600. That very same coin then reappeared again in 2019 when Heritage Auctions presented it at the Long Beach show, where it fetched an incredible $456,000 at auction. And if reports are accurate, then the same coin again sold several days later via private treaty for a reported $516,000 to a prominent Roosevelt Dimes series collector. Then that brings us again to the Roof E specimen.
today graded as Proof 67 by PCGS, which was sold in 2024 by Great Collections for $506,250. The first time that it had appeared on the market since 1979. So, have you checked your 1975 proof set yet? It might be time to see if there's a fortune hiding somewhere in your collection. Subscribe to WNN and feel free to watch a video about no mint mark coins right here next. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.